Space is quite vast.
We're receiving a signal.
On audio,
Oh my God, it's full of stars.
Doc, you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Prepare ship for ludicrous speed.
Into the limitless boundaries of space.
It's in the name of science.
Absolutely marvelous.
The latest result in machine intelligence.
I'll be back. God creates dinosaurs. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. I am your father. The podcast from Planet
Downloading something?
No, I was ripping some Blu-rays that I got. Turns out the Blu-rays that I bought from the UK don't work in my Blu-ray player, which I should have figured, but
Oh, fuck. They region locked them, huh?
yeah, they did.
Oh.
I thought when I was reading the product page that it said region free, but I was looking at like 2 or 3 of these different like old film restoring places.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't play them on the Blu-ray player, but I can rip them. So it's whatever.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I got The Thing, The Andromeda Strain, and Children of Men. The cases are actually super nice.
Gotcha.
And if I can, I think I downloaded a region, quote unquote, region free Blu-ray player software on here too. So if there's like special features that I want to watch, I can just do it that way.
Gotcha.
Anyway, good. You ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast from Planet X. My name is Ben, and with me today, as always, is my co-host David.
What's up, guys?
Today, we are taking a look at Total Recall, the 1990 film starring none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. So before we get into our initial thoughts on the film, we're going to go through the synopsis and talk about the cast and crew. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Synopsis. Douglas Quaid, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, is a bored construction worker in the year 2084 who dreams of visiting the colonized Mars. He visits Recall, a company that plants false memories into people's brains in order to experience the thrill of Mars without having to travel there. But something goes wrong during the procedure. Quaid discovers that his entire life is actually a false memory and that the people who implanted it in his head now want him dead.
Oof, poor guy. This is a small change that we're doing, so if you want to go back to the old way, drop a few notes down below or whatever you're listening to and let us know. We're going to blitz our cast and crew this time instead of how we have been doing it. We're just going to blitz it this time. So we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dennis Quaid.
Douglas.
Did I say something else other than Douglas?
Dennis Quaid.
Did I say Dennis?
You said Dennis.
Oops, it's Douglas. We got, I guess is it Tycon?
I think it's
Ticotin. Ticotin? Rachel Ticotin as Melina. Sharon Stone as Lori. Ronnie Cox as Cohagen. And Michael Ironside as... was it Richard?
Richter.
Victor. I cannot pronounce anything today. And then it's directed by Paul
Verhoeven.
Good God. Written by Ronald Shusett. What are these names, Ben? We're going to have you do the cast and crew from now on. This is terrible. Dan O'Bannon, John Proville, and Gary Goldman. And the score was composed by Jerry Goldsmith. Thank you, Jerry. The only thing I can say.
Maybe we will have to have me do the cast and crew next time. Jeez.
Either that or I need to start pronouncing names.
Don't feel bad. Gargantucast does the same thing. So, although they have Japanese names most of the time, maybe we should talk. Anyways, what are your initial thoughts on the film?
Gosh. So, the only experience that I've ever had with this movie before is a parody song of, I don't even remember what the song is called. But it's not necessarily the kindest song. So I won't necessarily say it here because it's kind of incorrect, politically incorrect anyways. But they mention the three boob girl on Total Recall, old one and new one. And that's the only experience I've ever had with this film before this.
Yeah, I'd have to say.
Always thought it
I'd
was
have
like,
to say that's the only thing that I actually knew from this film too.
So I always thought it was
sad,
terrible. But this movie is just amazing. I love it. I got like 10 minutes into it. I texted Ben, and I'm pretty sure I said the F word. This movie is effing amazing. I was totally drawn in. I loved it so much. Just from the, I don't know, it wasn't the acting that set it apart, I don't think. I love Schwarzenegger in a lot of things, and I think he did a really good job in this movie. It just draws you in. As far as sci-fi film, it catches you immediately. It unlike, unfortunately, the previous one we talked about, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where you have to grind a little bit and you have to want to watch it. This, it just pulls you in immediately. You're invested right from the beginning. You want to find out what's going on with this guy. You want to know if it's all real or if it's all fake. There's just so many things that just brings you into it, and I love it. It's hands down amazing.
Sorry. I probably won't be able to see that. Yeah, I'd have to say I agree with you. It was definitely a lot easier to get into this than it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This feels like a movie that I could easily sit down and watch time and time again.
Yes.
Like, it's something I would want to sit down and watch again. I definitely, because as you know, and as some of the people that listen to this may know, my favorite action film of all time, well, maybe not favorite action film of all time, but at least favorite action film of the era was Die Hard. And this feels very much in that same vein as far as how the action plays out. It's very violent.
Yes.
Very, very violent. Even more so than Die Hard, I would say. There's definitely some gory parts in Die Hard, and there's a body count, but there's a ton of blood in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially the opening scene. You see Arnold Schwarzenegger's face basically. I don't think they show him like actually dying, but they show him getting pretty close to dying with the special effects makeup and his eyes bulging out and his tongue.
Yeah, and his tongue
growing like 6 times its normal size.
Yeah, looked like a baseball.
Yeah, that was an image. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it definitely throws you into the deep end right off the bat. You kind of can guess what you're in for in the first like 5-10 minutes. But it definitely ramps up after he goes to the recall company or Recall Incorporated, whatever it's called, and he tries to get memories implanted. It definitely goes like it goes from 0 to 100 right there.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah, I'd have to say that I didn't get the impression that this movie was bad from what I had heard before, even though, like I said, my only knowledge of it was the three-boobed alien. But it definitely, I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. I'll say that.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that I thought it was terrible, because I actually had no impressions whatsoever. That the three boob girl is the only thing that I could reference at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that for some reason this movie is a lot better than it should have been, considering I've never seen it before.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's referenced as much as it should be. I don't think it's credited as much as it should be. I feel like this should be on TV a lot more. I just
this
I
feels like
I should have stumbled across it, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, this feels like something that they would put on, like, I don't know. Man, I haven't watched broadcast TV in a long time, so I don't know if they still do this. But like after Saturday morning cartoons and after those like educational style shows would go away, like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, they would put on some random movie. This feels like it would go perfectly in that time slot.
Yeah.
Like maybe not like necessarily over the air antenna TV, but I could see it like on sci-fi or something like that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Maybe not in its current form necessarily, but definitely with a toned down TV edit, 100%.
Yeah. You would have to do a toned down edit and cut out some of the
Yeah.
nonsense, but
Yeah, I'd say so.
for the most part, I feel like I should have stumbled across this. This is like one of those rare golden nuggets that you stumble across from time to time. It's like, oh, where's this gym been all my life?
Mm-hmm.
Why have I not seen this before?
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised. This feels like one of those movies I should have already bought and have seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird because this movie it's fantastic and it feels like it should have a legacy, kind of like Terminator or Alien or any of those other like seminal franchises.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it doesn't have a sequel or anything, it feels like its legacy should be bigger than it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our first talking point here.
Alrighty, so let's land into some critical reception. So some critics at the time said that the movie felt wow,
sorry,
yeah.
that was a typo.
Okay,
Hold on.
I'm gonna start from the beginning.
There.
So some critics at the time said that they felt the movie was excessively violent and nothing special in the way of sci-fi films, while others, such as Roger Ebert, called it one of the most complex and visually interesting science fiction movies in a long time. What is your opinion of the amount of violence in the film, as well as the validity as a sci-fi classic? Just to give you some references to how much violence there is in the film, guys, there's at least 77 total bodies by the end of the movie gone.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find amazing.
I would have to say that I wouldn't. I don't want to go back on what I said before because I genuinely feel like this should have a bigger legacy than it does. But at the same time, it doesn't feel as big necessarily as some of the other sci-fi films that were out there even before this came out, like Alien and Star Wars or anything like that. But at the same time, it does feel like it feels gigantic in its own right that it should be a sci-fi classic 100%. And And I feel like the reason that maybe people don't give it enough credit is because of the violence that's shown throughout the movie. Because like we said, there is a ton. There's blood and guts and disgusting body horror all over the place throughout the movie. Like there's no shortage of something gross to look at on the screen almost all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of somewhat, to me, feels like it's got some like big competition to go up against as far as the time frame of when it's out, because this is an early 90s movie where you've got Independence Day was a huge success back then. You've still got the late 80s Back to the Future franchise to deal with. There's a lot of good things that come around that time frame, but you don't hear about this movie like any of those. I feel like that's such a shame.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just as good as most of those that have launched during the early 90s time frame. I'd put this higher on my list, believe it or not, and I love Back to the Future. But I'd put that higher than that entire trilogy, which is saying something, because I love that trilogy. I've seen it at least 5-6 times in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years alone. Like, I make a point to at least go back and watch it every now and then, but I don't know what it is. It just didn't seem to do as good as... What did it do critically and box office? Financially, was it successful?
I don't know. I don't know what the box office was, but I feel like it was fairly successful.
So,
let me see if
I don't know. There's something that we're not seeing, I guess. There must be something to this movie.
The budget was 50 to 60 million. Box office was 261.3. So I mean, it wasn't like a failure or anything. It made 2-3 times the money that it took to make it.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a huge it's a huge budget for something that's 90s money.
Yeah, I know. That's
crazy.
Oh
gosh, what's that inflation adjusted? You said 60 million?
Yeah, I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
It's got to be closer to 100 to 200 million in today's money.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I think you're right in saying that. I think I would put it above Back to the Future too, honestly. I wish that we could have gotten something more in this world. But at the same time, I don't know where else they could have gone, because the whole shtick was revolving around this one guy losing or having his memories erased. So, saying that we should have gotten a sequel is hard to say, because I don't know what you would have done for the sequel. Like, honestly, I don't know.
I don't know. It's roughly double.
So
inflation adjusted.
120 million-ish.
Basically, really close to that.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about a 97% inflation rate from 1990. Yeah, which gives a lot of perspective in itself.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't think that the gore, should have something to do with it either. There's a lot of violence in it, sure. The violence didn't bother me none, obviously. Maybe as a kid it would have. So younger audiences may need to shy away, but as far as taking that away from it being a sci-fi film, I don't think that's the problem. Maybe there isn't a problem. Maybe I'm just not running in the right circles to hear about this movie, but I feel like I should have just heard a lot more about it now.
Yeah, I know. It's weird because, like, it feels like a movie that we should have heard about, and it's weird that at least I haven't heard about it. I mean, I've tangentially heard about it, you know?
Yeah. I
But-
mean, me, I could see a little bit more than you.
Yeah.
You hear these things all the time. You're a lot more culturally diverse, I guess. For somebody who had the stricter set of guidelines as a child,
Yeah, no kidding.
I seem to be the one that was suppressed all my life. Don't know how that happened.
Who knows, David? Who knows? All right. So let's get into our next point here. At the end of the movie, we see Quaid use the alien machine to create the atmosphere on Mars. What did you think about this plot point, and did it affect your enjoyment of the movie at all?
So, the movie is called Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
It's about his memories.
Yeah.
I think it was a strong movie to leave it at that. I understand that this atmosphere is the driving plot point to what brings us to Mars and everything. I mean, you could have probably had done this on Earth and left it at that if you hadn't brought this plot device into the movie. But I don't see why you couldn't have just left it on Mars as it was and not brought this into it, because I think it's so logic breaking, and I know it's sci-fi, so it's fiction, anything can happen. It's so logic breaking to me and so unrealistic that it almost makes me upset in a way that it shouldn't, and I don't know why it does. It's the vacuum of space, and you blow up a giant ice volcano effectively, and you somehow trap this gas. This is the problem I have. It's the entrapment and the actual creation of the atmosphere itself. You should have just vented to space and been done with it. What was there to keep it in the actual atmosphere of Mars? It's gone for a reason. There's no protective electromagnetic forces going on within the core of the planet anymore. It's dead. So there's nothing to keep the solar winds from tearing it all apart immediately.
Well, who's to say that the machine also doesn't create that? We only
That
hear
is
about,
a valid
we only hear
point.
about the one function that it creates the oxygenated atmosphere.
Yes.
So who's to
There
say
could be a
that?
force field that is accompanied by that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure, but why not just mention that?
Because it's a movie, David. They don't need to go that deep into it.
I guess. And I feel like I'm hung up on it a little bit too hard. A little bit harder than I should be. I just think it was unnecessary. The movie was fine without that, I think.
Yeah, I can kind of see your point, but at the same time, I didn't take as big of an issue with it as you did.
But you did take issue of something, so what was that?
The only what was it that I took issue with? The only issue I have with it is I don't know, I guess it's kind of like a ticking time bomb on this whole thing, because there's only going to be a limited amount of ice in the core. So eventually, wouldn't the machine use up all of the ice and have nothing to create the atmosphere from?
Well, if they did what you did say as a counterpoint to my argument, if there is a protective barrier, let's call it, then you don't really need to keep creating
Yeah,
it.
and see, that's why I don't really have as much of an issue with it anymore, because I wasn't really thinking about. I guess we kind of had the same issue with it in a little bit of a different way. And
You're thinking what's going to keep it going, because it's only a limited finite resource.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have the issue of it never should have been created in the first place, because it's going to run into your issue. So they are kind of related somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
But I don't think I took it. It didn't take me out of the movie. It was just like a thought that I had during the movie, and then I was like, whatever. It's a sci-fi movie.
I had to pause it and go. This is the only time I actually paused the movie too. I had to go pause it and breathe a little bit in the corner and then come back. I was that upset at it.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't know why. Maybe it's just me being over. It's a stupid sci-fi film. I shouldn't care.
Yeah.
Out of all the things that they've done, I shouldn't care that they did that. But it was just something that drove me nuts. I don't know why. We can move on.
Okay. You want to touch on our next talking point then?
So we've got some great examples of special effects in this movie, both practical and in post-production. What special effects stood out to you the most?
The two that are maybe three that stood out to me the most. One we already talked about was both in the beginning and at the very end with Cohagen, how they're when they're out in the unoxygenated surface of Mars.
Yeah.
How their eyes and their tongue and their face starts bulging. That was definitely an image that stuck with me. Like I am able to very easily picture it in my brain right now.
That was the other thing that got me upset. Keep going.
The second was Kuato, the mutant leader dude that was like in that guy's chest.
Yeah.
That was That was some. Let me be straight here. The special effects in this movie are fantastic, which is why it allows me to get so grossed out with this stuff.
Exactly. It was so good. It was too good.
Yes, exactly. It was the special effects in this movie were, I don't know if they were groundbreaking, but they were certainly top of the league.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And then the last one that I had, which I, upon doing research about it, made it even more interesting. The skeletons, when he was going like through security in the subway station or whatever, it turns out those are CG. Those are CG skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just impressed that that showed up in a 90s movie before Terminator.
Yeah, I liked it. They were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that they wasn't, quote, actual X-rays, like...
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not going to bombard their actors.
No, but, I mean, like, you could tell there was an animated quality to them.
Yeah,
and I think it actually served it better. It was kind of like a tiny humor moment to me, especially when he's like looking to the left and to the right when they shout out he's got a gun. Mm-hmm. It was almost in like a cartoon type style. And it's like, oh, what am I gonna do? And he's looking on both sides, and then just jumps through the screen. Mm-hmm. I loved it. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Did you have one more?
No, that was it.
Gotcha. I think you hit the nail on the head. The faces, for sure, and then the chest, and I'm trying to think if there was another one that was really good. I guess the whole atmosphere creation special effect was nice. I mean,
that was pretty interesting.
They did a good job with, some cloud and storm formations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that I meant to mention when we were talking about the atmosphere. I didn't like how their faces went straight back to normal. It's like, oh my God, that is so disfiguring. You cannot tell me that you're going to disfigure these people like that, and then they just go back to like, oh, nothing's happened at all. Like it's completely reversed.
That's one of the things that I took issue with this movie. One of the only things, might I add, was they were out in the atmosphere for it had to have been a good like 5-6 minutes before the creation of the atmosphere actually started happening.
Yeah.
They by all rights, they should have been dead.
Yeah.
Like
They
100%.
were out there too long.
Yeah.
That reaction should have been quicker. Like they should have been thrown out the tunnel through the depressurization a lot sooner, or that effect of creating the atmosphere should have been already in like a turbo mode by the time they got out there, because they were out there gasping and dying for all practical purposes for far too long. They shouldn't have been able to just, we're back to normal.
Yeah. But as far as the special effects go, I'd agree with you. The atmosphere looks pretty good, but I would have to say the standout is all like the prosthetics and stuff on the mutants and everything.
Yes. Yeah, that was
all
that
the
was
special effects makeup was fantastic.
good. Special effects was really good on the makeup. That third boob looked totally real to me. and natural too. Like you could, it didn't look like it was a prosthetic. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Like it looked like they did.
It was
definitely
it was definitely believable, 100%.
Exactly. I don't know if there was another thing that they could have done with anything on Earth as far as special effects related goes. I think they hit everything on the head there. I think they did a good job. The one thing that they needed to do was the skeletons in the X-ray machine, and they did a good job with that. I think everything else is fine. I don't think they needed to change anything there. What I probably would have liked to have seen was like a special effect of like the memory implantation, the process for that. We didn't really see anything for that. We just saw.
I mean, maybe, but let's be honest, it probably wouldn't have been much more than what they did with Time After Time and the time traveling sequence.
Yeah, maybe. But still.
I feel like all they could have done was maybe a bunch of colors and whatnot. And besides, it kind of factors into the whole point of the ending, which we'll get to eventually.
This is true. You're right.
So,
I didn't think about that.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our next talking point here. In the film, the rebel leader / mutant Quato says, "You are what you do. A man is defined by his actions, not his memory." Do you agree with this statement? Why or why not?
I totally agree with this statement. This should be something that people should strive for in real life. It shouldn't be I want to create a lasting legacy mentality. I want to be remembered, this, that. Because, I mean, there's people in history that go down in history as being very memorable, but for all the wrong reasons. I mean, who remembers anything positive about Hitler?
Nobody.
And there probably was things that was positive about him at some point.
Sure.
But it's completely overshadowed by the mass genocide he was trying to commit. And yeah, that's not necessarily the best thing to do. I think it should be actions, what you did in life. Now he says memory, like your personal memory, I guess, and not the interpretation that I just laid out there, which was like a memory for others,
like a legacy memory.
Exactly. For others to see 50 years down the road when you're probably 6 feet under. I don't know what else you could say about your personal memory, though. It's going to be what you've done in life.
See,
what you've experienced. I don't know how you change that.
I think what somebody could take away from that is what you do going forward is the thing that you should be focusing on. Whether or not you've done something bad or whatever in the past.
Okay.
you should focus on doing good moving forward with whatever time you might have left. And I mean, obviously that's not really what the context is for the movie,
No.
because, you know, his memory was wiped and blah 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 blah, but I think that's the best way to put it into context for the way that it's kind of laid out, the way that it is defined contextually in the movie.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Okay, I could go with that. Because I still struggle with how to do it any other way.
yeah. All right. Well, you want to move on to our final talking point then?
Alrighty, so the ending. The movie is somewhat ambiguous as to whether the events in the movie were entirely dreamed or whether everything actually happened. What do you think the real answer is and why?
I'm gonna go with the entire thing was real, because I feel like it would be a cop-out to say everything was entirely a dream. Does it make the movie better if it was all a dream? I don't know. That's hard to say. Maybe if that was the definition that they went with when, you know, they were looking at it critically back in the day, maybe that could have elevated it to a higher plane in sci-fi or whatever. But I feel like, just my personal opinion, I feel like that I don't know, it would have made it less of a movie to me if the whole thing was a dream. Just because, like, I mean, I don't know. I think that's stupid, honestly, if the whole thing was to take place inside of his head.
I think it definitely happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the answer necessarily lies with the ending of the movie. I think the answer lies in the immediate reaction that the guy, I guess you'd call him the salesperson at Recall, has when he specifically says he's acting out the memory that you've implanted. It's nothing. And she specifically, the doctor, the one that would be administrating this memory implant, specifically says they have not implanted anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think in the moment that he's in there that would be, I should say Quaid is then at that particular moment. I don't think you'd be in a lucid enough state in any fashion to be able to dream that she said that. Because he was in full out freak mode during that specific time frame.
Yeah.
And I feel like there would have to be like a subtle, based on what I interpret as dreams and stuff. And of course, I know theirs is all artificially created anyway, so they could break logic if they wanted, but I feel like there has to be a subtle hint at something in your life to have a memory form in a dream like that, like kind of like a deja vu scenario where you feel like you've done this before. I feel like he would have had to heard that at some point. And I don't think that would be the case in the state that he was in. So you can interpret it however you want, but I think it's 100% real just on that scene.
I kind of forgot about that scene. I think that kind of shakes the argument entirely, because if they really wanted to make it super ambiguous, that scene shouldn't have been in the movie at all.
Exactly.
They should have cut from him being implanted, like going into the chair, being ready to be implanted with the memory, to him being in the back of the taxi cab.
Yeah.
That, if they took that scene out, that would have made it just that much more ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's in the movie, so I would say I'd have to change my answer to definitely a hard no. Everything actually happened. 100%.
Yeah. Which is why I specifically said I don't think the answer is in the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go by the ending, it is very ambiguous as to what happened. And you could personally, totally believe either way.
Mm-hmm.
Without that huge context clue of that entire scene that we just mentioned, I'd be hard-pressed to wonder, okay, is this actually real or not?
Yeah.
But with that scene in context, I don't see how you can get around it.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. At least not going by the logic I explained. Now, if you want to come up with your own logic to disprove me, go right ahead. I'd love to hear your theories about it. Drop us a note. Add us on Twitter if you'd like.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's where we can leave this one. Let's get our ratings out of the way. What would you give this movie out of, let's see, out of five severed arms?
Pretty sure there was more than that.
I mean, 5 pairs of severed arms.
I would say probably a 4.
A 4? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would give this a 4.5. I was thoroughly entertained by this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so that out of the way, we're going to fire up our random number generator here. We still have, I don't think we added anything since last time, so we're still working with 100. Let's see what we get. We got 54, which is Treasure Planet.
Ooh.
That's
yes.
exciting. Okay. So, looks like we're doing another Disney movie next time.
I am stoked. Ugh.
All right, guys. Well, be sure to look out for our episode on Treasure Planet coming in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked, please be sure to leave a rating on whatever podcasting platform you happen to be listening on. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast from Planet X. We are hosted, edited, and produced by Ben Mason and co-hosted by David Knowles. Our theme song is produced by the Tormented Teamster. You can follow Ben on Twitter at Ben Plays Vidjas. That's Ben Plays VIDYAS. And you can follow David on Twitter at Car6x16. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can contact the show on Twitter at PlanetXPod or by email at podcastfromplanetx@gmail.com. That's all for this episode. We'll see you next time.